It was a confrontation waiting to happen, thick with tension. Donald J. Trump, United States of America's previous president, was tucked into the back of a bulletproof limousine, thoughts all over the place while carding drumming on the leather seated. Riots, victories, defeats, scandals, and impeachments are just a few things he witnessed during his presidency, but nothing could prepare him for what was coming tonight. He was heading towards a secret meeting that was arranged with the utmost caution and secrecy. A meeting that quite literally sent shivers down the spines of even the most fearless Trump advisors. And the dinner candidate, the man responsible for his assassination attempt 5 years ago. And let's just say he was sentenced to life for a reason. The bullet that grazed his shoulder is one way to refer to the podium blasting into pieces while chaos erupted. He was arrested immediately, but for some strange reason is a free man now. Trump twisted the red tie around his neck, an accessory that has remained uniform through thick and thin. His bodyguards waited around with their ears on, but were not relaxed. Regardless, the former president had been adamant. He decided to go in by himself. He had queries and he required them to be resolved. He needed to meet the man face to face, to discern the reason, to comprehend. And if it was possible, maybe he was willing to inflict pain. The History Channel has a documentary ready about Trump. You can watch it to see what I mean by inflicting pain. The pace that was set in this country was astonishingly quick. If it were a race through a finish line, it would be in a dividing split second. Trump, anywho, made sure to not jump out of the convocation with joy. It was here that his suspicions of requiring a suit for each occasion being correct were eliminated. While he proceeded to step out of the car at suspiciously predetermined areas. A warehouse-style kiosk at the outskirts of the city is the one in question. These types of buildings hold a lot of unexplained events, hence not allowing windows. Men equipped with a bit too much power, better suited at keeping information locked under key and secrecy. Internally locked doors creaked open, all the while emitting a audibly faint click. At each step that Trump made, the cold concrete made a harsh echoing sound. With an eerie sea of sight set right in front of him, a single headlight turned on, illuminating the area around it. The shadows that were cast by the dim light began to flicker and shine across the space. Out of the obscurity, a character stepped right in front. And to parallel his statement, "I'll give you the benefit of the doubt that it's a character," the person that had attempted to assassinate him. Trump was momentarily breathless, but didn't hesitate. He had faced world leaders, dictators, business moguls, and journalists who all looked down on him. In his lifetime, he has been called every single name, mocked, ridiculed, and in some cases, even worshipped. But this man said Trump was a ghost from a night that made history appear to be rewritten towards something far more dangerous than he ever thought was possible. The man in front of Trump looked a lot older to him than he remembered. With his hands cuffed in front of him, a precaution was taken in spite of promises stating that he was not a threat anymore. His face looked like it bore the marks of time and regret, or perhaps something darker, such as controlling power over everything. "Mr. Trump," the man spoke, rough and unfamiliar, as if he hadn't spoken in years. Trump unclenched his fist and looked blank as he snapped out, "You tried to kill me." The man confessed, "I did." Silence spoke to the distance between the two, similar to a wound left open for a long period of time. Trump stood still, carefully contemplating the matter. Seeing a man whom tried to shoot him up in person left an aftertaste with him, which followed Trump even into the dreams where he was finally free and alive. But stand in front of him only left him blank and unsure. "Why?" Trump finally asked, his voice quiet yet strong. The man breathed out, his eyes dark with something Trump could not name. "Because I believed it was the right thing to do." An anger that Trump was oblivious to suddenly flared in his chest. He had expected remorse, fear, and even insanity, but not this. "You believed?" he echoed in disbelief. "You truly believed that killing the President of the United States was the right thing?" The man's jaw seemed to tense. "I was delusional. I was certain that you were my nemesis and that you were single-handedly destroying the country, that you needed to be neutralized." Trump inched forward, his form looming larger than life. "And now?" The man waited before shaking his head. "Now, I understand differently." Trump observed him, looking for lies, always anticipating self-serving intent. He had learned long ago that trust was a currency best spent sparingly, and yet the man seemed to have something that drew him to him. "Someone let you out," Trump said, snapping into a new line of thought. "Who and why?" The man looked away, tightening his grip around the cuffs. "That's why we're here." Trump's heart began to beat faster. This was more than just a meeting. This was a twisting and convoluted set of actions. And if there was one thing Donald J. Trump excelled at, there was in fact a lot more. For the next few hours, Trump and the assassin, now revealed to him as Daniel Graves, sat face to face in the warehouse. Their conversation was a beautiful mess in discovering the premises of conspiracy and redemption. Graves clarified that he was not simply set free, but rather extracted, suggesting that there were much greater powers at work than either of them could grasp at the moment. Someone, somewhere needed this meeting to occur, so that had to mean something for them, right? As the night extended, both men began fitting the pieces of the puzzle together and now saw the brunt of its picture. Graves, it seemed, had been an underutilized asset turned radical by a well-funded, shadowy organization with political intents. Instead of projecting him to be an asset, he was given orders by a handless broker, and it seems as if these powers wanted him dead instead. Reason? Because he was too deep-rooted in power that struck him like a hammer across the skull within the underlying structure of America. As he listened to the conversation, Trump's face twitched as he felt waves of skepticism and intrigue. The entire situation is transcending far beyond a failed assassination attempt. Power. This was about power. Power over narratives, countries, and in retrospect, the entire world. One thing, and one thing only, rustled his jimmies more than anything else did, and that was being placed. Prior to him progressing any further, the sound of footfalls could be heard coming closer from deep within the warehouse. The two men exchanged glances. The poker game was now afoot. The footsteps became increasingly articulate, gradually growing closer in a familiar beat to the cold warehouse floor. Trump's instinct made him grab the firearm strapped in his coat. Knowing all too well the consequences of a political blunder, he had been in life threatening situations before. Graves became slightly rigid, eyes moving fleetingly to the entrance that lay shrouded in darkness. A silhouette became apparent, tall with a coat draping well below the waist, with a face hidden in the shadows. The inflatable bladders that were buried unobtrusively within the conflict, camouflaged geared Perkins suit began to expand, intensifying the unending silence. "Mr. Trump," the shifty-eyed man spoke, his tone deep and calculated. "Who the hell are you?" Trump replied, his knuckles turning white as he tightened his grip on the gun. As the man stepped up, his sharp, calculating eyes were illuminated. "A messenger, a broker of truth and deception. Of all people, you should appreciate that." Graves stiffened. "He's one of them." Trump narrowed his gaze. "Them? The people who pulled the strings," Graves whispered. "The ones who made me believe you were the enemy. The ones who got me out, just so they could kill me." The messenger smirked. "Oh, Daniel, you're giving us too much credit. We merely set the stage. The choices you made were yours." "I have heard enough," Trump retorted. "Cut the crap. Why are you here?" The messenger sighed and reached into his coat while Trump raised a hand to stop the bodyguards outside. The man retrieved a sleek black folder, embossed with a symbol Trump nor Graves recognized. "This," the man said, setting the folder on the rusted metal table between them, "is the truth. The truth about your assassination attempt. The truth about who really runs this country. The truth about what's coming next." Graves exchanged a wary glance with Trump, then hesitantly reached for the folder. He flipped it open, and his face went pale. Trump leaned over, his eyes scanning the first page. What he saw made his blood run cold. Names, dates, secret meetings, assassinations, false flags, and at the very center of it all, his own name, written in bold, ominous letters. The former president looked up at the messenger, his voice as sharp as a blade. "What the hell is this?" The man simply smiled. "Your next move." The warehouse lights flickered, and in the distance, the unmistakable sound of approaching helicopters filled the air. "We don't have much time," the messenger continued. "Decide quickly, Mr. Trump. You can walk away now and let history swallow you whole, or you can fight. But if you choose to fight, know this. You're going to need him." He nodded toward Graves, who clenched his fists. "Why me?" Graves asked, his voice raw. "Why drag me into this again?" The messenger's smile widened. "Because Daniel, you were never just an assassin. You were part of something much bigger. Something you don't even remember." Trump exhaled, his mind racing. He had spent years fighting enemies in the open. Political rivals, the media, the establishment. But this was something deeper, something darker. And for the first time in a long time, he realized he might not be the one in control. "Fine," Trump finally said, snapping the folder shut. "But make no mistake, if I'm playing this game, I'm playing to win." The messenger nodded, stepping back into the shadows. "Then let the game begin." Outside, the helicopters drew closer. The warehouse doors trembled, and the storm that had been brewing for years was finally about to break. The helicopters loomed closer, their rotors slicing through the night air like an impending storm. Trump and Graves exchanged a glance. This was it. They could run, they could hide, or they could fight. And Donald J. Trump had never been one to back down. With a sudden motion, Graves slammed the folder shut. "We need to get out of here. Now." Trump nodded, reaching for the concealed firearm inside his coat. "I don't run, but I'm not about to let them take me without a fight." The warehouse doors exploded inward, the force of the blast shaking the very foundation. A squad of black-clad operatives stormed inside, their weapons raised, their intentions unmistakable. The lead agent pointed directly at Trump. "Mr. Trump, you're coming with us. Now." Trump scoffed. "Yeah? Says who?" Before the agent could respond, Graves lunged. Years of incarceration hadn't dulled his reflexes. He moved like a predator unleashed, knocking one operative to the ground and grabbing his weapon in a single fluid motion. Gunfire erupted, deafening in the cavernous space. Trump ducked behind an overturned crate, returning fire with practiced precision. Bullets ricocheted, sparks flying. The messenger who had delivered the folder had vanished into the shadows. Whether a traitor or an ally, they didn't know. Trump's bodyguards finally burst through the side entrance, adding their firepower to the chaos. The warehouse became a battlefield. "We need an exit," Graves shouted over the noise. Trump's mind worked fast. "The back loading dock! This way!" They fled the web of metallic crates with bullets blazing by. A bullet grazed Trump's shoulder, sparks flying as it hit the steel. He had chosen to ignore it. Adrenaline had flooded his body. His mind was clear and concentrated. He was actively fighting now. Graves cursed loudly as he forced himself through the back exit and slipped through the remaining gap, slamming it shut behind him. Right on his heels, he heard the dreadful trump of a footfall to the rear and bolted through. The door was securely wedged shut for now, but the heavy steel pipe he had used as a nightstick wasn't going to be any sort of real barricade. "That won't hold for long." A black SUV turned, skidding sharply into view. Trump's security detail. The driver violently threw the door open. "Get in!" Within half a second, the doors were slammed shut, and as the engine roared to life, the tires screeched angrily against the pavement, propelling them into the night. In the rearview mirror, Trump caught a glimpse of the warehouse growing smaller, fading further into the distance while still lit from the inside from the firefight that had taken place moments before. Gasping for breath, Graves shifted toward Trump. "We need to speak, right now." Trump's finger fidgeted with the edges of the folder in his palm, rather compulsively. "Damn right we do. And this time, I don't care for the half-assed explanation." The night was far from over, and the battle that had been fought within the shadows had only begun. The SUV roared through the poorly lit streets, approaching and taking sharp turns, while avoiding the slow traffic and any potential stalkers. Trump sat at the back, edging his grip around the folder so intensely that his knuckles turned white. Beside him sat Graves, panting a bunch with sweat trickling down his forehead. The security detail in the front punctuated the silence and rattled off messages through the earpieces. But Trump barely caught what they were saying. His brain felt like it was going to explode. "Safe house," Graves said while looking at the roads behind. "They'll come after us again." Trump inhaled, trying to clear his mind. "I know a place. Take me to the compound," he said finally. Without a moment of hesitation, the driver nodded and took an abrupt turn down the compound. The driver took the SUV toward the dirt road, and the compound connected to the city's edge, and the heavily private estate was designated to people like them in times of a crisis. The convoy came to a halt behind the estate's walls and deep within the premises where guards roamed in their black suits with weapons flashing under the floodlights. Inside the SUV, Trump's credentials were recognized by the security system, and the gates opened to a metallic hum. The convoy rolled inside and came to a stop amid robust and reinforced walls. Hopefully, the thick walls protected him from the raging storm and friction outside. Trump and Graves entered to find a room equipped with multiple screens, a communication system, and a heavy vault door. Trump collapsed the folder onto the table and said, "Now talk." "Everything." With stress etched across his face, Graves combed through his hair and uttered, "It's bigger than I thought. They're not just after you, Trump. This organization has been manipulating global events for decades. Wars, elections, assassinations. Everything is just another move in their game." Trump exhaled sharply, filling the room with a tense silence as he shifted through the pages that had been displayed in front of him. His voice was hasty as he spoke, "And you were their pawn." To his astonishment, Graves had world leaders, financial institutions, and high-level intelligence agencies on file. "What you just revealed is truly astounding," Trump croaked. With stress matted across his face, Trump turned to Graves. When Graves nodded slowly, the floor began to shake uncontrollably. "They let me live for a reason, and that terrifies the hell out of me," he admitted. Trump took a chance and studied him for a long moment. Boldly eliminating the possibility of lying was a first for him. Nonetheless, he wasn't lying. His closing statement resonated with a simple phrase, "And I fear." By opening up, he put himself and others in a position of tremendous vulnerability.